Every yard, every hit, every second. It's earned out here. This game demands more than just skill. It demands fuel. The right fuel. Cause out here it's not just about how hard you work. It's about how long you keep going. When the game gets real, drink bottle still.
Welcome in, Connor O'Neill, Wade Zanketta. We are down to just two teams remaining after what was a really good weekend of Canadian football, not just at the youth sports level. A lot of big high school games going on. I know there was some Burlington teams that were playing to the wire. Obviously, Connor O'Neill, cast champion once again with the Frontenac Falcons. And then the Grey Cup to top it all off on Sunday. Connor, we're going to start with the U Sports games because those are, the most pressing topics for us, and then we'll sprinkle in some Grey Cup at the end. But what were your initial thoughts when you saw, the way the scores turned out for Queens, Saskatchewan, and for Montreal SMU?
I'll give my quick thoughts on Montreal Smith here before we get into Queen Saskatchewan, as this is the final recap here of the OUA season for us. But quickly on Montreal and SMU here, Montreal just did Montreal things for me, and SMU just ran into that wall. I think that's really how the game broke down for me.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that one a bit more in a second here, and we'll go now to the Queen Saskatchewan game because this one to me was the heavyweight fight we expected it to be. It was the game that we thought was going to happen. It's just, that third phase of Canadian football, the special teams units really reared its head for Queens in this one, and to Saskatchewan's benefit as, Daniel Kabongo ripped an 85-yard punt return touchdown that was really the big difference in this one. The Queens defense did their best with short fields to force turnovers, limit scoring. Riker Frank, outside of the one explosive where he went for about 30 yards, it felt like the Queens defense just had him hemmed in, but he just wore away, chipped away 5 yards of carry, and kind of broke into that comfortable rhythm that we found in all year long.
100%. This wasn't like the prototypical Queens defensive game, but I still thought that they did enough to put themselves in a position to win. I mean, when you look across the board, yeah, sure, Riker Frank goes for 131, like you're saying. But again, to your point, that's really about it. And Daniel Weeb had a long one, but they bottled up Jake Farrell. 150 yards in the touchdown. They forced two interceptions on the day. But yeah, for me, Wade, obviously the difference maker is special teams, is Kabongo in this one. Early in the game, like we were talking about, he has that 85 yarder that really, turned the tides, opened the floodgates, and kind of shifted the momentum in favor of the Huskies. And then late in the game in the fourth quarter, in that one, Queens is forced to punt the ball back to Saskatchewan, and Kabongo does some damage again with that one. And for me, that late fourth quarter punt return by Kabongo was kind of the final nail in the coffin for me.
Yeah, and Connor, that punt return, but the one before it as well, Queen's defense, given these short fields, they force the ball back. The offense does enough to get off their goal line, punts it, and Driver just kind of leaves two of them short. I think the stat was two punts, and they netted a grand total of 35 yards between those two punts. That's net. So from where the line of scrimmage is, you kick it and come back on the return, you have two punts total of 35. Usually it is, one punt, you get 40 yards or 35 yards as your net. So they're really hemming themselves in there. And on that last one, like you said, it just felt like, it looked like a lot of the punt coverage was headed towards the field. Punt gets ripped towards the boundary, empty lane, and they were lucky another one wasn't housed. But looking at the offense in this one, Connor, Queens didn't really run the ball as much as, we've seen them run all season long, but it wasn't like they were unsuccessful passing the ball. And when you look at Alex Freakin's numbers, 30 for 53, it's a lot of incompletions. It's a lot of attempts in general. And when you have 300 yards plus, pretty much 400, and the touchdown, you keep the ball safe all game long. It just felt like they were able to do so much offensively in the pass game and avoid really the Seth Hundebys and the Charlie Parks and that teeth of the Huskies defense. They're still able to have success playing with, maybe not their identity, but certainly a different facet of their offense. And guys like Logan Walton, who has been hurt all year, was a big contributor to the playoffs. He is their deep threat. That was not a surprise to see him get going Falcone doing his thing over the middle. Said Smith with another touchdown on a dig route, which I feel like we've seen so many times this year. But Connor, guys got involved. Vreeken was, effective, over 50% completions, and really drove this ball. But when you are so hemmed into your own end zone like Queens was for a lot of this game, it's exhausting to go that far and come up empty time after time after time. Like, you could have a 50, 60, 70-yard drive and still find yourself out of scoring range.
And I think that's really what was done well for me with the Saskatchewan defense is the battle of field position, right? Like, yes, Queens found all this offensive success through the air, and they freaking had a really successful day, dotting the ball, doing his thing, but they didn't give up points, right? We're talking about these long drives that don't go anywhere or didn't reward you with anything. And I think that's credit to Saskatchewan sort of playing this bend don't break, right? They were aggressive. They got after it. I mean, they still had 3 sacks and a ton of PBUs in this one. Um, but they didn't allow points, which and I think that is really the highlight in this game for me is they allowed Queen's offense to find success, but not success to the point where they were giving up a whole whack of points, and it really favored them as they only gave up that 1 touchdown to Brecken, right?
Yeah, and Connor, for reference, Queens had one drive where they started beyond their own 40-yard line. So they played a lot of this game in their own end, trying to dig themselves out and to hold the Huskies really to the 1 touchdown offensively. They did a hell of a job at that. And, Daniel Weeb's touchdown was a thing of beauty. And, they got their playmakers involved early enough that you had to worry about them. But Vanek with the pick, Pace with another pick, which, I mean, he's just made so many countless plays. And I don't know how this guy isn't a all Canadian. I know that the games played will certainly be a metric in that. But he is the best linebacker in the country, Connor. There is no question about that. And unfortunately, he won't get the recognition of all Canadian this year. But anyone that has played against 44 and gold knows exactly what I'm talking about. So let's move on. For the OUA fans, this has been a great end of the year. For those that are wishing to still follow along as we go through the rest of this football season, you can do so wherever you catch your podcast at Canadian Football Perspective. Connor O'Neill, Wade Zanketta, as always, thankful for another year with the province, with the conference, and we'll see you guys next year for more.